This is Matt Maiocco from NBC Sports Bay Area with an update. Deebo Samuel, very good news. Deebo Samuel has been released from the hospital. That's according to a team source. So he had been treated for pneumonia. He went into the hospital Sunday night after the 49ers game against Kansas City, spent all day Monday there. And as of Tuesday midday, he has been released. He's home. Now, what that means, I don't know as far as this coming week is concerned, but certainly long-term good news for Deebo Samuel and for the 49ers. And I'm going to speak more on the long-term look at the 49ers passing game in a little bit. But first, this update is brought to you by Canyon Club Brewery. It's a brewery, a beer garden, and a restaurant all wrapped into one in Moraga in a very family friendly atmosphere. So take your family, take your dog, enjoy the great weather of the Bay Area and the La Miranda area at Canyon Club Brewery, and coming soon to a location in Danville in the Livery. And I've been by there as they're building that thing out. It's going to be a really good space and definitely going to be one of my go-to spots. So look forward to seeing you soon at Canyon Club Brewery. So yeah, as I mentioned, Deebo Samuel only played 4 snaps in that game against Kansas City and kind of left the 49ers shorthanded as far as just the wide receiver position goes. The 49ers really didn't have any other options as far as bringing somebody up from the practice squad, because by the time he started feeling those symptoms late Saturday night and early Sunday morning, it was too late for the 49ers to make an elevation from the practice squad. So they had all of their wide receivers up and available for that game. And Deebo Samuel, like I said, played 4 snaps and then couldn't catch his breath, couldn't play any longer. Brandon Aiyuk sustains the torn ACL late in the first half. Juwan Jennings had already been ruled out of the game with a hip injury. So the 49ers were without their top 3 wide receivers. So, um, my thought with Brandon Aiyuk, he will be undergoing surgery to repair the ACL, torn anterior cruciate ligament in his right knee, also had a torn MCL. And I think somewhere else on social media, I said that I would think that there's a good chance that he would be available to play early, week 1 of the 2025 season. And basically what I'm basing that off of just a couple of precedents that's been said, or what we saw from Talanoa Hufanga. Talanoa Hufanga, it took him 44 weeks from the time he sustained his ACL tear in November of last season to him making his appearance week 3 of this season. So 44 weeks. So if you take that same 44 weeks, I know they play different positions, but if you take that same 44 weeks, that means Aiyuk would be cleared to play on August 24th, so several weeks before the start of the 2025 season. And another one just came to mind, Cooper Kupp. He sustained his ACL injury in roughly the same time as Hufanga on November 11th of 2018. And when the Rams opened the 2019 season on September 8th, he was out there. So using that same time frame, I think a very good chance that Brandon Aiyuk is available to start the 2025 regular season. If not, give or take, but he should be available for most of that year. So one of the talking points about the 49ers during the whole Brandon Aiyuk situation was, if the 49ers give him a big money contract, does that mean that Brandon Aiyuk and Deebo Samuel are not around for next year? And I don't think that's the case, just because of the way the whole Aiyuk thing played out and how good of an offseason Deebo Samuel had, doing everything he could behind the scenes, being a team captain and all of that. So let's take a look at the future of the 49ers passing game. And that this is posted after I talked about Brock Purdy and his future a little bit on the previous video that I posted here. So we can assume the 49ers will sign Brock Purdy to a very sizable, handsome contract in the offseason. What that looks like, we don't know at this point, but it's got to be, I mean, whatever that number is, 40, 45, 50, 55 million a year, something along those lines, as one of the top producing wide quarterbacks in the NFL. Let's look at the wide receiver position. Aiyuk is 26 right now. So a year from now, coming off an ACL injury, he'll be 27. And he is under a very reasonable cap figures for both the 25 and 26 season. So he's going to be still a part of the 49ers long-term answer at the wide receiver position. Deebo Samuel is 28 years old right now, and his cap hit for next year is 16 million. That's the final year of his contract, but then he'll have a big dead money hit the next year. So Deebo Samuel could be a player that the 49ers look to extend, even though he's getting close to 30 years old. Other guys in the passing game, Juwan Jennings is signed through next year at 4.25 million, a very reasonable contract for him. And then the 49ers would like, obviously, for their rookies, Ricky Pearsall, the first round pick, and Jacob Cowing. They'd like to kind of acclimate them more into the mix. They'll get a lot of experience, I think, especially Pearsall here the last part of the season. Both of those players, Pearsall and Cowing, signed through the 2027 season. So it's entirely possible that the top four wide receivers from this year, Deebo, Aiyuk, Jennings, and Pearsall, are still the top four wide receivers next year, with Cowing having a very strong possibility of being the fifth receiver, or if there's an injury, bumping up to the fourth while also handling the return duties. Also in the passing game, George Kittle. This is kind of the spot where the 49ers really don't have much depth at tight end, and certainly not starting kind of caliber depth at tight end. And Kittle is 31 years old, just turning 31. 2025 next year is the final year of his contract. So that's the one question as far as what the 49ers are going to do with Kittle. Do they extend him before he gets to that contract year? Do they draft somebody that they see, that they envision is a long-term starter in place of Kittle? But that's an area where the 49ers have to start planning for the future, whether it's keeping Kittle around, which is a distinct possibility. Obviously, he doesn't seem to be slowing down too much, even though he's on the other side of 30. The offensive line is also a spot where we can look at as far as what the future holds. Dominic Puni is a player that I think can fit in any one of the 49ers offensive line positions. And he can be a player there wherever they need him. If it's left guard, left tackle, center, wherever it may be, I think Puni has proven during the early season here at right guard that he is going to be a top flight offensive lineman wherever they want him for as long as they need him. So that's something to keep an eye on. And so I do see the offensive line for the future a little bit malleable in the sense that they can move people around a little bit, with Puni being the most versatile offensive lineman that the 49ers have had since Derek Deese. I don't know. I just threw that name out there. Derek Deese was really versatile. He played all over the 49ers offensive line. And so I see Puni as being a guy who can not only play any position on the line, but probably play it very well. For next year, I don't see the 49ers really feeling a need to replace any of their offensive tackles, whether it's Trent Williams, who's 36 right now, or Colton McKivitz, who's 28. McKivitz is signed through the 2025 season, so we'll see what happens there. But if this season is any indication as far as his improved play over the start of a year ago, I don't think the 49ers would see any big need to replace him. But there is some opportunities on the interior of their line, with Aaron Banks being an unrestricted free agent. I really have a difficult time thinking the 49ers are going to re-sign him and sign him to an extension or a new contract, because as an unrestricted free agent, I would assume that he'll probably get a pretty big contract that the 49ers might not be willing to pay him at this point. And then Jake Brendel, 32 years old right now, will be 33 next year. He is signed through the 2026 season. So we'll see how his play is throughout this season, if there's any drop off. But That's where I see the passing game. And I think the passing game is the area right now with the 49ers where there is some question, whether it's in the pass protection of not giving Purdy the time, uh, the wide receivers not getting open as quickly to enable Purdy to get rid of the football, or it's just the scheming. But I think that the passing game offensively looks to be in pretty good shape for the future, with the caveat being that all these guys are getting older. So Ayuk at 26, his best football should be ahead of him, but now there's that added complexity of him returning from a severe knee injury. You have Deebo Samuel, who's at or getting very close to his prime. Uh, Kittle, I call it on the wrong side of 30, which means guys are typically going downhill a little bit when they hit the 30 years old, and he's 31 right now, but he's gotten off to a pretty good start this season. And then the offensive line certainly will be a spot where the 49ers can look to use a draft pick, an early draft pick like they did this year, kind of my thought with Dominic Pooney is anybody who thought, well, the 49ers should have taken an offensive lineman at 31 overall. Maybe it's a good thing they didn't, because they might have missed on an offensive lineman, and maybe they wouldn't have come back to take Pooney in the third round. If they had already taken an offensive lineman in the first round, I think Pooney is a big time player. And who knows? Maybe the offensive lineman they took at 31 would have been Dominic Pooney anyway. So there's the quick update. Deebo Samuel out of the hospital. That's really good news. What it means for this week remains to be seen. Brandon Aiyuk scheduled for ACL surgery. His season is over, but a good chance, let's just say a chance, that he'll be ready to start the 2025 season. So thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Uh, Turn on your notifications so that whenever I post a new video that you will know about it. Leave a comment, leave a like, and that's it for now.